Hey folks, great to be here. So I was here a year ago. By a showing of hands, who was here? It was a Saturday. Good. 12 of you. Excellent. It was really great, folks. I'm telling you. The rest of them are busy. Well, I'm excited to be here. This is the end of a great West Coast swing. I'm from Florida, so I've got 3 flights home tomorrow. But sometimes going home always seems like a shorter flight because you're going home. It's been an exciting year. It's really been an exciting decade for me to see the natural health movement grow from a really small niche group to modern culture. And we've invaded culture to where we're making a difference on the front lines of everybody's health, and we're excited about that. My health journey began as a child of natural health. I was a result of hippie health nut parents who raised me to be fairly healthy, but unfortunately I, like many teenagers, kind of went a little wayward and don't know exactly why. I have some suspicion, but don't know exactly why. At age 19, I was diagnosed with 18 illnesses. I had Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory disease of the bowels. I had rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue syndrome. I had extreme anemia, parasitic, fungal, bacterial, and viral infections. I had prostate problems, urinary tract, kidney, heart, and liver. I had a wasting disease that took me to 104 pounds in a wheelchair. And I visited 69 medical experts all over the world trying desperately to get my health back. I would have great promise where the doctor would say that he's cured everybody he's ever seen, and then there'd be me. I was the first failure. Over and over again, I was always told there was something wrong with me. I was a bad patient. It was me, it was me, it was me. I watched as my family suffered, watching their child, grandchild, and brother near death's door. And I really described myself as being trapped in a prison that was my own body because I couldn't sleep. I looked in the mirror and was horrified at what I saw. When I traveled, which was only to see doctors, people saw me and were repulsed by me, not drawn towards me. A lot of you have the Raw Truth book in your lap, which is my latest. I don't want you to look now, but there's a copy of what I call the before picture in the intro chapter. Now, this photograph marked a great amount of faith. I like to say it was a step of faith, but it was really 8 steps. I would be taken care of in my parents' house like an infant, living in my sister's room. You see, when I went away to college, my parents downgraded to have a smaller home, didn't expect me back. My sister had to sleep in the den, and I was crammed in her room. But 8 steps from her room was a closet that was really in between the bathroom and the kitchen. And oftentimes I would take those 8 steps and I would wake up with my face plastered in the tile, glasses broken, having blacked out due to having a 0 iron level in my blood for 18 months. One day in the midst of my illness, about a year into it, after so many horrible days and nights, disappointments by doctors, I felt led to take those 8 steps of faith. I walked from my sister's bedroom to the closet, and I said, "Mom, I want you to take my picture." She said, "Jordan, I don't want to take your picture." I said, "Mom, please take the picture." She said, "Jordan, it breaks my heart to look at you. Why do I need to take your picture?" And I said, "Mom, take the picture." She said, "Why do you insist?" I said, "Because the world's not going to believe what God's about to do in my life." Faith sometimes comes in small packages like the size of a mustard seed, but I felt like I needed to memorialize not victory, but my lowest low, because today you would never believe what I looked like or who I was by who you see today. Now, I didn't get well the next day, the next week, the next month, but a year later, facing a dangerous surgical procedure that would remove body parts that I'm confident belong inside, I met a man by telephone who lived in San Diego, California, and he told me that if I followed a diet based on the Bible, proven through history and confirmed by science, I could be well. Something happened to me as I was listening to him. Now, I already knew that illness was a horrific experience. Didn't know that before. I was an immortal teenager, but now I knew that what I took for granted, my health, was so important, was primary. But I knew that if I ever got well, that if I could help just one person overcome disease, or better yet, avoid it, it will have all been worth it. And as I was talking to this man named Bud Keith, I thought, wait a minute, this makes sense. I already read the Bible, and if there's a diet in the Bible and it doesn't require any gadgets, gizmos, or potions like I've tried all over the world, if this gets me well, I could share it with others and then they could get well. My faith turned to hope, and I flew 2,300 miles in a wheelchair to live with the man I'd never met, learning principles that I'd never known. And in a 40-day period, in a program I would later call the Maker's Diet, I went from death to life. But the life I got was not my old life back. It was a new life, a vision, a passion, and a mission to see the health of this nation and world transformed one life at a time. I moved back to South Florida, began working at a health food store, stocking chips and beans, but always able and willing to talk to somebody who would walk into the store and ask for help with their child who has ADHD, or their sister who has been diagnosed with breast cancer, or their father who has arthritis. My colleagues couldn't always answer the questions, but I would always be ready to take out that photocopy of my before picture. And I said, ma'am, I don't know a lot about psoriasis, but what I do know is once I was dying and now I'm well. I'd recommend a product, a food, a book, skincare, or I'd say to avoid an entire group of foods altogether. Something amazing happened. While that paycheck I got at the end of every 2 weeks of $4.25 an hour didn't make me rich, I'd see the same people I gave advice to come in 2-3 weeks later, maybe barely recognizing them. They'd walk in front of me, jump up and down, give me a hug, and say, Jordan, remember me. I'm the one with the horrible red skin. Remember me. I'm the one with the child who couldn't focus, who's now getting good grades and behaving. I thought, wow, I could get used to this. My stint at a health food store lasted 10 months when one of the doctors that I had looked to for advice during my illness said that he wanted to write an article about my story in a natural health journal. He said 8,000 doctors and their patients will read this. You may need to set up a phone line. I did. It was a one-line phone. And 2,000 calls later, the company that became Garden of Life was born in my parents' friend's garage. Why? Well, because I didn't own a garage or anything to park in it. I told my story, shared my message, and began creating whole food nutritional supplements. It was a goal of mine when I was in San Diego getting well to give people the compounds that we need to restore our health in an easy, convenient form, following where food would lead us. And I'll explain later why we've taken some wrong turns along the way. But I also had another dream. When I would live in my motorhome trying to spend the night breathing in the ocean air, driving around from health food store to health food store in Southern California, desperate for the raw foods that got me well, the raw milk kefir, cream, butter, grass-fed beef, the raw carrot juice and green juice that are available in health food stores in California, but rarely available other places, unfortunately. And I would go with my cooler because I didn't have a generator. I only had a cooler with ice. Every 2 days I'd go and line up first to get the raw dairy. And boy, when it didn't arrive at the store, I was heartbroken. And the dairy guy, Matt, knew it. So when I walked in one Tuesday, after spending the night in the parking lot of the health food store, and I saw his face, he was smiling. He knew that I would be as well because I had my raw kefir. I left there with my cooler in tow, going back to my motorhome, and I vowed that I was not going to spend the rest of my life parking in health food store parking lots and waking up at the crack of dawn to get this food that would hopefully be there. But no, I would be helping create by growing and raising the world's healthiest foods. Didn't happen right away, but in addition to starting Garden of Life nearly 16 years ago, traveling around the world sharing this message, 5 continents, 44 states, millions of people. In the last year and a half, I've started what Andrea described as a Beyond Organic farm and ranch network, where I'm learning more each and every day how we can take the resources God's given us and transform our health, our economy, and even our planet. And it's been an exciting ride, and hopefully you'll hear more about that in the future. But what's undoubtedly taught me the most about health and wellness, how to communicate it, and how vital it is beginning to raise our 3 children. Joshua will turn 7 in May. Samuel and Alexis are both 3. You can tell I get my break while I'm on the road. Now, Joshua has been eating healthy since day one. And it's interesting, people will assume that I force him to eat healthy, and that's partially true, but there's a great verse in the Bible that says, train a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. You see, if you offer my son Joshua food, he will give you a list of 10 questions regarding its quality. Now, previously, he would eat something that someone gave him and say, but Dad, they said it was healthy. And we said, son, according to us, it's not healthy. And we explained why. And then we said, look, just eat what we give you. Now, Joshua goes to kids' birthday parties, and we stuff him prior with good food. When the school eats fast food 3 days a week, he brings his own lunch. You know, he does this, but now he really gets it. My son knows that what you do with your health, your decisions with your diet, your exercise, will either give you benefits or consequences. One day I was driving him to school, and he said, Dad, did you eat junk food when you were a kid? I said, yes, son, I did. He said, what kind? I said, I'm not telling you. And he said, is that why you were in a wheelchair? And I thought, you know, I've never sat down with my son, who was 5 at the time, and told him my story, but maybe he saw it, heard about it, heard me talking about it on the phone, I don't know. But he realizes in black and white form that your decisions, your choices, make an impact. Now, one day, the Rubin boys, my son and I, who are very big sports fans, especially baseball, basketball, football, were watching golf, because in Florida, you kind of have to pretend you like it. It was about a year ago, and it was the Masters tournament. And my son, I will tell you, Joshua, has never rooted for a losing team. You're watching the game midstream, he'll be like, Dad, we're winning. Who's we? Oregon. Dad, we're winning. Who's we? Auburn. I mean, he never picks a loser. So as we're watching golf, naturally, when the best player in the world at the time shares a name with a ferocious and really cool animal, say tiger, who do you think he's going to root for? So Joshua says, Dad, do you want Tiger Woods to win? And I thought, this is a teaching opportunity. I said, son, I don't want Tiger to win. And he said, why, Dad? Why don't you want Tiger to win? And I said, Joshua, Tiger Woods has made some bad choices recently. And without hesitation, he turned to me and he said, did he eat sugar, Dad? And I said, well, son, he may have dipped his hand in the cookie jar one too many times. Last month, the principal of my son's school, he's in first grade, called and said, Mrs. Rubin, you need to come to the principal immediately. Now, we didn't know what was going on. I halfway thought that they were going to ask me for some health advice, but when she got there, Joshua was sitting there, and the principal said, Mrs. Rubin, your son has started a club, and we don't allow clubs in school. Now, mind you, my son is the only one who eats like he does in school. It's different. I mean, today in the health movement, you get wonderful foods. Back when I was a kid, and probably when Curtis started, there were 4 foods in health food stores: kelp, wheat germ, brewer's yeast, and soy everything. There were carob Santa Clauses that made you glad Christmas didn't come but once a year. There were sorbet candies that were guaranteed to dissolve in your mouth within 6 months or your money back. I mean, it was not good, folks. Let's just face it. But now it's great. My son eats wonderfully. I don't feel guilty or bad for him for 1 minute, but he goes to school with different food than everybody. So he decided, instead of being the only one, he decided to turn the tables, and he created the Healthy Foods Club. So what he would do is he would go around and look at everybody's lunch and determine whether they were in the club or not. So the principal said, this little girl, she's so scared to even open her lunch bag, and she's asking about how many calories are in it, and this one's saying it's not organic. And so my son did confide in me, and he said, but Dad, I did let Brady in the Healthy Foods Club. Now, his lunch isn't all that healthy, but he is my best friend. So he's already adhering to special interest groups at age 6. So we got to work on that. Now, my son also did something else interesting, and it really relates to this message. My son obviously sees things that I've done. And he told me when his whole Healthy Foods Club plan was foiled that he had a new idea. He was going to write a cookbook, a healthy cookbook. And I left on a trip and figured, sure he is. So I get home, and I see this 8-page stapled book that says Healthy Cookbook. And I open it, I see Dad's famous ice cream and Mom's famous meatloaf. Then I see this recipe with 30 ingredients. It's got sage and coriander, julienne this. I'm like, who is this kid? At the end of the book, it says, look out for the next books in my series. I think he meant series. And he listed 5 other titles. Now, I thought about something. I thought, my son has obviously seen books around the house with my name on it, so he believes that he should be able to write books too. And it got me thinking. Some of you are here tonight because you've maybe read my story of overcoming illness, or maybe somebody invited you because they know that you're suffering from a health challenge, and you're here having been pronounced an illness over your life by an individual who you respect. It's a doctor, someone in authority, and they tell us that we've got a disease, that we're incurable, that we'll need medication or surgery, that we'll never be able to do this or that again. My son has never been told by anybody that he can't do anything, so he assumes he can do everything. But people in this room and people that I meet each and every day have had death pronounced over them. I have a good friend who's a pastor of a large church in California. I visited a couple weeks ago and spoke at his church. He came to me through a mutual friend after he was diagnosed with stage 4 renal cell carcinoma. At age 48, he sat before the head oncologist of the entire network of physicians who said, well, you could die any day, but you have a 50% chance of living 1 year. Now, Diego chose, instead of believing that and receiving that for himself, to believe that he was going to have victory over this disease. But sadly, as I sit and talk to people, within 20 minutes I can determine by your conversation if you're going to be a victor or a victim. You see, we don't believe, like my son believes, that we can do anything. In fact, we'd rather or prefer in America to believe that we're going to be a statistic instead of someone who's an overcomer. And I want, as we listen today, for you to understand, I'm going to share with you 6 keys to extraordinary health, and I believe you can get the results that you're looking for. But if you spend more time talking about your disease than about your health, if you spend more time thinking about when you're going to die than how you're going to live, you often will get those results. People are afraid to say things like, I'm going to get well, because what if it doesn't happen? But we're not afraid to say that the doctor gave me 6 months to live. Folks, in a decade or two, we're going to look back at the barbaric nature by which physicians talk to us and even treat us. I think it should be illegal to tell someone they're going to die. In fact, if you all, who are a lot of you healthy, went to your regular physical and the doctor said, I have terrible news, you're going to die in 6 months, some of you would. We choose to believe, and then we take action that supports it. I want to encourage you today to believe that no matter what disease you came in with, no matter what limitations you've been given, no matter how crazy your family says you are for being a health nut, no matter how bad WebMD says your prognosis is or your support group you go to, no matter how many times they've said you've got to learn to live with your disease, which I have no interest in doing, by the way, I want to encourage you to believe, because out of belief brings action. When I talked to Bud Keith on the phone, I went from being treated as a patient to being someone who is ready to take control of my health by believing. I told my mom I was going to get well. I took action by getting on an airplane in a wheelchair, traveling 2,300 miles, and I got my results. There's another great Bible verse that says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is, and life and death are in the power of the tongue. I've been in front of thousands of people with health challenges, and I can tell you, folks, there's deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, essential fatty acids, but the greatest deficiency is hope. And it's what I want to share with you tonight, that if one person can overcome incurable diseases, so can you. We're no different other than belief and hopefully action. So with that, these 6 keys to extraordinary health come from my experience. They come from studying some of the greatest health minds in the modern natural health movement. In fact, my latest book, The Raw Truth, which many of you are holding, I get a chance to pay tribute or homage to these 13 legends of health, as I call them. Some of you are newer to natural health and have never known the person who gave us wheatgrass or who decided that we should put carrots and celery through some contraption to extract the juice. He was called crazy at one time. Some of you have never heard that there was a political prisoner, physician in Iran, who instead of crying boo-hoo, treated 2,000 patients with peptic ulcer disease using pure water alone. You're going to learn about these men and women throughout this seminar, but I didn't come up with any of these keys or any of these principles. I learned them from people who taught them when it was a lot less popular, often risking their lives. But I've seen them in practice. I also want you to know that nothing I share with you tonight I don't personally do. Some people say you need to practice what you preach. I say you should only preach what you've already practiced. It's important. Too much hypocrisy out there. So you should understand that when I came here, I already ate healthy, and when I'm leaving from here, I'm going to eat healthy, and I'm going to do anything I can to prioritize the health of my family, those that I care about, and anyone that I can reach. These 6 keys to extraordinary health are for you. Now, if you're a note taker, let me apologize ahead of time. I talk awfully fast, and I try to use words that are very long and you can't spell to make me sound smart. Let me know if it works. There's a magazine that all of you have a copy of called Extraordinary Health. We publish this free every quarter. It's always free here at Pilgrims. We're getting a new issue coming in a couple of weeks. And that book you have, The Raw Truth, the combination of the two will have almost everything that I share tonight, except the occasional joke, but you probably will remember those anyway. 6 keys to extraordinary health. Key number 1, it starts with the gut. Now, folks, growing up, I never would have dreamed or imagined that I would spend most of my adult life, my vocation, talking about people's bowel habits. Some people are called, others are chosen. Nothing embarrasses me, mind you. I've heard it all, seen it all, and recommended it all. But what I do know is that if I were going to have one disease, sounds like an odd proposition, I know. If I was going to have one disease and overcome it, it would be a digestive disease. Why? Because digestive health is the key to overall health. According to medical textbooks dating as recently as 1910, the digestive tract could be a contributor, either directly or indirectly, to 90% of health challenges. Most of your immune system is in your gut. Most of your brain function takes place in your gut. And more oxidative stress, what you would need antioxidants for, takes place in the gut. The gut is the governor of the 2 things you need to do to be healthy. Think about it. 2 things, that's pretty good, it's just 2. You could hear 20 seminars right on this stage. While we all may have different ways to get to the destination, the way to get healthy is this. Get the good in, which means nutrients into your cells, and get the bad out, waste out of the body. That's it. Now, getting there might be a challenge, but your digestive tract governs it all. All the men and women that I write about in the Raw Truth book, these legends of health, all believe that the gut was where you started first. So that's what we're going to start. I'm going to share with you 5 steps to achieve extraordinary digestion and detoxification. Every day, your body does it for you. Good in, bad out. You just need to sit back and allow it to work. Number 1, cleanse regularly. Now, some of you just hearing the word cleanse get a little nervous. You picture that 1992 Saturday Night Live commercial for Colon Blow cereal. You think you're going to be in the bathroom for an entire week reading your Encyclopedia Britannica you bought 20 years ago. Some of you think that I'm going to recommend the cleanse where you drink lemon juice and cayenne pepper for 40 days. I'm not going to. Some of you are confident that I'm going to recommend that one cleanse you only heard about where you drink apple juice for 4 days. On the evening of the 4th day, you drink 8 ounces of olive oil, lay on your left side, and hope that green pellets appear in the toilet when you wake up in the morning. I go to bed most nights hoping they won't. Some of you are confident I'm going to talk about colonics, enemas, or even coffee enemas. Now, you might find it interesting to know that coffee enemas were a part of medicine, even as late as 1950. In fact, when I wrote my second book, Restoring Your Digestive Health, I created an ode to coffee enemas. It goes something like this. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your... It wasn't cup. And Folgers got a little bit upset about their main product being associated with that route of administration, if you know what I mean. So it got cut from the book. Folks, here's what cleansing is not. It's not a no pain, no gain proposition. Cleansing is not a time where you dump all the toxins you've accumulated in your entire life. Cleansing is a jump start to your health. Cleansing is a time where you focus on you. I recommend you cleanse for 7 days, 4 times a year. That's January, April, July, and October. Those are recommendations. And boy, what a great time to be here. It's tomorrow, isn't it? Cleansing is a jump start to the health that you desire. Now, when you cleanse, you want to eat better, less chemicals. You want to sleep more, rest more, get more sunshine, breathe deeper, and give more hugs. And if you look at the diet recommendations of virtually every health expert, it always centers around raw foods and beverages. Raw foods and beverages do a better job of delivering nutrients and removing waste than anything. So if you're going to consume raw foods and beverages, and by the way, we give you 2 different raw diet plans in the Raw Truth book, I have looked far and wide for a cleansing system to help you out on your raw food diet, and there was none. So what Garden of Life, the company that I run, does is create whole food nutritional solutions where they don't exist, first for my family, and then I'm blessed to share them with you. We created a system called Raw Cleanse that is a 3-part, 7-day system helping cleanse your digestive tract from the top to bottom and your cells from the inside out. Raw Cleanse is amazing. It is a companion to a mostly raw food diet for a short period of time. And if you follow it, I believe you will feel lighter, younger, more energetic, and be ready to tackle the world. You cleanse April, July, and October this year. I bet you finish it feeling better than when you started. Second step to extraordinary digestion and detoxification health, boost your probiotics. Who in this room knows what a probiotic is? Raise your hand. Man, lots of you. When I first gave a seminar 15 years ago, I asked the same question and only 2 people raised their hands. Well, there were only 3 in the audience, but I think you know the picture. You can't turn on the TV, go into a grocery store, pharmacy, or health food store without seeing probiotics. I'm going to tell you what they are, how you know if you need them, and how to get them. First of all, probiotics are simply the good germs. Oxymoron? Hardly. Now, there are good germs and there are bad germs. Dr. Bernard Jensen, a health legend in my book, believed that it was all about balance. He said you want 80% good germs, 20% bad. Think of it this way. 80 policemen and 20 criminals are pretty good odds. 20 policemen and 80 criminals, not so good. Jensen believed most Americans had just that kind of a balance, 80% bad, 20% good, which is why the aisles of digestive products in pharmacies are growing and why they have jingles to talk about all your horrible digestive symptoms that can be cured by some pink liquid. Folks, digestive issues may be normal, but it doesn't mean they're healthy. We've settled. But when it comes to protecting your body, probiotics are your internal army. And I want to talk to you about how everyone in this room has probiotics, but hardly anybody, if anyone, has enough. So how do you know if you need a probiotic boost? Number 1, if you were delivered via cesarean section, not normal birth, you need a probiotic boost. Folks, some people say, but Jordan, so what if you got a C-section? What's the big deal? In my estimation, anytime you go against God's creation, you suffer consequences. I believe cesarean births are going to overtake vaginal births in the next 2 decades. And there's problems with that because you are taking yourself out of nature and into the hands of modern technology. And I vote nature over technology any day of the week. You get your initial probiotics through your trip through the birth canal. Bet you never knew that. Number 2, if you were not breastfed or breastfed long enough, you need a probiotic boost. That could be the second place you get your probiotic influence. Number 3, and most ubiquitous and probably most dangerous, if you've ever taken 1 dose orally or 1 application topically ever in your life of an antibiotic, you need a probiotic boost. I would say, raise your hand in this room if you've never had an antibiotic, because I've never had anyone say yes until the last seminar when there was a 17-year-old girl who'd never had an antibiotic, and I said, congratulations. My number 1 goal for my kids' health is to be antibiotic-free. So far, it's worked. Amazing what we settle for in our health. Think about it this way. You have a rose garden, and the roses are your probiotics. You've got 100 roses, but you decide to uproot 50 of them. You rip them out. But you water the roses. You fertilize. You let them get sunshine. Now, mind you, you didn't cut off the top. You uprooted 50 roses. At the end of a year, how many do you have left? 50. Same thing goes with probiotics. When an antibiotic comes in, it kills the good and the bad germs, pulls them up by the roots, and you don't get them back until you replant them. But it gets worse. If you've ever had one bite of conventional, non-organic beef, poultry, eggs, one sip of non-organic dairy, you need a probiotic boost. Folks, I know agriculture now. 97% of antibiotics go to our livestock, not so we can treat them, so we can mistreat them. And where do they end up? In the meat or the milk. Now, if you drink commercial milk, it comes from thousands of cows, and one source said that one sip of non-organic milk could give you 80 antibiotic residues. Low-level antibiotics in a human body, all it does is ruin the opportunity for an antibiotic to work when we really need it, if we really need it. If you've ever had one sip of chlorinated water or bathed or showered in it, you need a probiotic boost. Chlorine kills germs, and guess where all the antibiotics end up that go into your cattle? In our water supply. On our ranches, we have springs. We tested one of them with a sophisticated laboratory only to determine, with reasonable certainty, what the previous owner had in his medicine cabinet 5 years ago. Folks, you have to understand these are chemicals. They're inorganic. They're not breaking down. They're ending up somewhere. If you've ever taken medications like oral contraceptives, heartburn, liver, or anti-anxiety medications, you need a probiotic boost. If you've ever eaten lots of sugar, breathed in toxic air, or been angry enough to yell at somebody, you need a probiotic boost. How do you get a probiotic boost? 2 ways to do it. Number 1, eat a probiotic diet. Our ancestors consumed probiotic foods every day, often with every meal. We barely touch them today. Probiotic foods are the cultured or fermented foods, like whole milk yogurt and kefir, like cultured veggies, sauerkraut, kimchi, properly prepared pickles, pickled ginger, umeboshi plums. You have cultured or fermented soy products like unpasteurized soy sauce, miso, or natto, which is that kind of goopy Asian condiment that's kind of disgusting but really good for you. Sold you on that one. You can have cultured or fermented beverages like kvass, apple cider vinegar, kombucha. Many out there. These all have probiotics, and they feed your own probiotics. But if you're like me, food is not enough. And for the last 15 years, I've consumed a probiotic supplement every single day. Now, 30 I tried while I was sick didn't work. But Primal Defense, the product that started Garden of Life, did. And in the last 3 months, I have introduced the most advanced probiotic system ever created. Get this, though. It's advanced because we looked back to the past for an innovation for our future. Dr. Eli Mechnikov was a Nobel Prize-winning scientist who visited Bulgaria. While in Bulgaria, he observed 87-year-old peasants living healthfully. What was so surprising about that? Well, at the time, in the early 1900s, people were lucky to live to 50 in America and Europe. What was it about these Bulgarian peasants that made them live so long? Dr. Mechnikov actually studied their birth records. He went to grave sites, looked at all that. He found that every day these Bulgarian peasants consumed a drinkable form of cultured dairy, such as yogurt or kefir, about a half liter a day. It's like a water bottle size. He brought back samples to his lab, and he found that in this cultured dairy product were vitamins and minerals. He found enzymes. He found microorganisms called probiotics, and he named the most abundant one after these peasants, Lactobacillus bulgaricus. Dr. Mechnikov is the father of probiotics, but fast forward today, you go to your cooler at your health food store, you see naked organisms in a capsule, and you're supposed to swallow it and get results. How did we get from a cultured dairy product to a probiotic in a powder that has nothing else but the organism filtered everything else out? We retraced the steps of Dr. Mechnikov to create a whole food solution that approximates the very product that these Bulgarians consumed. We started with yogurt culture from Bulgaria, potentially thousands of years old. We went and brought kefir cultures from Eastern Europe, raw fruits and vegetables from Serbia, which is right in the same region. We found the vitamins and minerals that are created by the Lactobacillus bulgaricus, enzymes to help you break down dairy, and the most potent 85 billion and most diverse 30-plus probiotics ever developed in a whole food package. And we realized that key probiotics work for different ages and different genders. So we created raw probiotics for men, raw probiotics for women, raw probiotics for men 50 and wiser and women 50 and wiser, and raw probiotics for kids. And because we found some pretty interesting things about probiotics, when we tested some in the cooler in the health food store, we found that what was on the label wasn't exactly in the bottle. Some probiotic products had less than 1/10 of what they said on the label. Now, probiotics, at least lactic acid bacteria like Metchnikoff found, are fragile. So we decided to build a probiotic dedicated facility where the probiotics get cultured, the product gets made, it gets frozen, and it gets shipped in a refrigerated container all the way to Pilgrims. And when they open it up, you get at least as much as what it says on the label, but tests show that there's even more. It's called the Arrive Alive delivery system. Folks, I'll tell you this. Probiotics are a critical element to your body. Probiotic foods are important to eat. And if you're going to supplement with probiotics, raw probiotics is the most authentic whole food solution. And if you need digestive support, give it a try. You'll see the results. Step number 3 to extraordinary digestion and detoxification. Preserve your enzyme bank account. Folks, we all know that people's bank accounts have moved down a lot over the last few years. But if you knew or had access to the balance of the bank account in your body, your enzyme bank account, you might be even more upset. Illinois physician Dr. Edward Howell believed that tiny proteins in foods called enzymes were very important to health and longevity. These enzymes could digest the food that you eat, the protein, the carbs, the fats, the fiber, the dairy, the grains. Now, Howell believed that humans only produce enzymes in a finite or fixed amount. He believed it was much like a bank account, except you can't make deposits, you can only make withdrawals. And your job would be to minimize those withdrawals. He also believed that when your enzymes are gone, your life is over, and that the more enzymes you have in your bank account, the longer you'll live and the better you'll look. Let me tell you 2 things about digestion you need to know, folks. Memorize, write it down. You're not what you eat, you're what you digest. Number 2, that which you eat and do not digest can and will be held against you in a court of health. When you eat food and don't digest it, it doesn't disappear, folks. It sits and rots like a dump, feeding the germs that lie in your gut. Your enzyme bank account needs to be preserved, and I'm going to share with you 4 ways to do it. Number 1, this will shock some of you. Eat when you're hungry. Some of you are thinking, hunger. Yeah, I think I remember something that felt like hunger 10 years ago on a Saturday. Folks, we're never hungry in America. If we have a hunger pain or our stomach growls, it's like a 5-star alarm. If our kids ask for food and we don't stuff their face within 5 minutes, we deserve to go to prison. Folks, people are telling you to eat 6 times a day to stoke your metabolism. You're stoking something all right. We eat too much. And there's no doubt that your body was designed to experience symptoms of hunger because it was ready to receive food. Think about it. You could eat the best food in the world, wheatgrass smoothie, flaxseed crackers, and buckwheat cereal on a full stomach. It won't do you any good. Eat when you're hungry. Number 2, chew your food thoroughly. How many of you have been told as a child, don't just inhale your food, chew your food properly? There's a reason. A lot of these mother and grandmotherly sayings made sense. They didn't know why, but now we do. I want to also preface it by saying this. In my research, nearly all digestive problems, large and small, result from undigested carbohydrates. Now, when you see or smell appetizing food, what does your mouth do? Salivates or waters. There's an enzyme in your saliva called ptyalin that breaks down carbohydrates. Try this experiment at home. Take whole grain bread or whole grain plain cereal that tastes bland and start chewing it. At your 50th mouthful, it will taste sweet because the starches that are hard to digest are broken down to easily digested sugars. Chewing your food can help you digest. Now, a lot of us have learned to deal with post-meal gas bloating and indigestion, but what if you just chewed your food more thoroughly and didn't have that? And guess what? Chewing your food 50 to 100 times a mouthful does something else for you. You eat less. Now, there was a man by the name of Horace Fletcher who lived in the early 1900s. Fletcher was diagnosed with Addison's disease. It's an autoimmune disease of the adrenals. Fletcher was sick and weak like I was, and told by his doctors there was nothing they could do. Fletcher didn't want to get his affairs in order. He wanted to live. So he studied human physiology and anatomy, and he realized we have a bones system and muscles called a jaw that was designed to chew. So he committed to chewing his way back to health. And according to an article in a popular health magazine at the time, he did just that. And he also spawned an entire group of followers called Fletcherizers. The only way to be in the club is to chew your food 50 to 100 times a mouthful. Now, folks, before you freak out and think, man, I'm going to close down every restaurant and be a boring dinner date, let me tell you that this will make a difference. It is what we're supposed to do. Every time people say, Jordan, can't I just eat normally and be normal? Well, if normal in America means 1 out of 2 getting heart disease, 1 out of 2.5 with cancer, tens of millions of asthmatics, diabetics, and 1 out of 66 boys born today to develop autism, I'd say, no, you can't be normal. You can be extraordinary, though. That's what we're looking for. Number 3, eat raw foods. Most raw foods have the enzymes within them to break themselves down. It's nature's decomposition program. If you throw a banana in your lawn and come back 2 weeks later, it will most likely be gone. White bread will just slosh around when you turn the sprinklers on. There are 4 types of food that cannot break itself down: grains, beans, nuts, and legumes, seeds as well. The reason, there's an enzyme inhibitor in these foods so that the birds and the insects won't eat them all and destroy their children, their future. If you soak grains, seeds, nuts, and legumes for 4 to 8 hours in water, you will remove those inhibitors and unlock enzyme potential. It's a sprouting process. Eating more raw foods will give you an ability to preserve your enzyme bank account. And number 4, take a digestive enzyme supplement with meals. For the last 15 years, when I eat a cooked meal, which is rare, when I eat a processed meal, which is never, restaurant meals, which are more than I'd like, I take digestive enzyme supplements. These plant-based enzymes help me break down the food that I'm eating into usable nutrients. A couple months ago, along with raw probiotics, I introduced a groundbreaking enzyme system called Raw Enzymes. Number 1, Raw Enzymes has more of every single enzyme than any other brand. So it's objectively better. More enzymes to digest protein, carbs, fat, dairy, fiber, grains, legumes, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. Also, it occurred to me a while back that when you take an enzyme supplement, it helps you digest for about 30 minutes. But what if you forget your enzyme supplements at a meal? What if you're sleeping and you need digestive enzymes? What if you're working? I thought, you know what? I'm going to create a system where we take the organisms that actually create enzymes, enzyme factories, if you will, and put them in the formula. So we did. And one enzyme generating factory creates enzymes for 6 days after you take the capsule. Not just 30 minutes, it keeps going and going and going. And we have enzymatically active raw vitamins. Someone asked me, Jordan, why would you have vitamins in your enzyme supplement? Nobody else does. My answer, show me a food in nature that has a load of enzymes but no vitamins. Doesn't exist. Nature always wins, folks. And in my research, I also found that men and women eat different foods. Women consume more dairy and grains. Men consume more fats and proteins. And when we age, we lose our ability to break down protein and dairy. So we created a system that was targeted for you. Raw enzymes for men, raw enzymes for women, raw enzymes for men 50 and wiser, and raw enzymes for women 50 and wiser. By taking an enzyme supplement with meals, eating more raw foods, chewing your food thoroughly, and eating when you're hungry, you can preserve that ever so important enzyme bank account. Number 4, you've heard about going green in the environment. I'm going to encourage you to go green on the inside. Green is perhaps the color of health. And on our ranches and farms, our one goal above all is to capture the power of the sun with the tiny solar panels called blades of grass and leaves of green. You see, we don't live off of food energy. We live off of the sun's energy. And green plants transfer it to humans and animals. It should be the base of your diet. Green leafy veggies that are raw have minerals to charge your cells, antioxidant enzymes to protect them, lightweight proteins to build your body, and chlorophyll to cleanse and purify you. Green leafy vegetables can make you extraordinary. Think about it. How do you become extraordinary? Better than the rest, cream of the crop, top of the heap. You do things others won't. I estimate 1/10% of Americans eat 3 to 5 servings of raw leafy greens a day. That's a 99.9 percentile if you do it. I'm going to give you 3 quick tips on how to get green on the inside. Number 1, eat salads. Some of you are thinking, but Jordan, I don't want to get my salad spinner out of storage, and then I got to pick the grit out of the spinach. Folks, I'm going to give you a lesson from my bachelor days. 14 years ago, I knew eating greens were important. I didn't want to make a salad, so I went to the health food store, and I got this pre-washed organic green mix, and I opened it up and put it in a bowl, put healthy dressing and protein in it. And voila, the bachelor salad. 2 servings, 2 minutes. What's stopping you? Number 2, juicing veggies. I consumed raw veggie juice 362 out of 365 days last year. What was your number? Now, I didn't do it for 3 days when I tried to go to Canada and they wouldn't let my green juice cross the border. And what's up with that? Every morning, the first thing I put to my mouth is raw green juice. Juicing is great, and everybody loves it for about 3 days. You stay up late and watch infomercials on TV. You see the testimonials, you order the juicer. You get it home, you open the box, you go to Pilgrim's, you go to the checkout with carrots, celery, spinach, parsley, cucumbers, big basket full. And the person behind the counter says, man, you must be a juicer. And then you say, yeah, I'm a juicer, because being a juicer is cool and you're a juicer. You go home, you juice your veggies, they taste really good, you feel great, and then you read the fine print on the box. What Jack LaLanne didn't tell you the night before says this: go find the oldest toothbrush you have. In order to clean, scrub vigorously for 4 hours. Folks, juicing is awesome, but not everyone will do it. So 13 years ago, I created a solution. It's called Perfect Food. Perfect Food is raw green veggie juice in a powder, or if you're a wimp, it comes in capsules. Perfect Food Raw is our latest version. It's 35 green juices, veggie juices, sprout juices, and it tastes really good. Not like a chocolate ice cream sundae, but good veggie juice. Put it in a jar with water next to real juice. Looks exactly the same, because it is exactly the same. Folks, I want to challenge you for the next 30 days, the first thing you put in your mouth in the morning for it to be green juice, whether it's fresh or whether it's Perfect Food, because I bet the 31st day that's what you'll crave instead of something that comes out of a pot. See, you don't realize this, but the human body knows what it needs. I know you're so far removed from that, you're thinking, does that mean I need double cheeseburgers and Oreos? Because that sounds great. Folks, when you expose yourself to the healthiest foods, you will crave what you need. We just lost that sense. Go green on the inside. And number 5, increase your fiber intake. There was a young man in Great Britain about 80, 90 years ago that was walking to school just like he does every day. Only this day would change his life forever. This young man was mobbed and beaten up by 4 older boys. The scuffle was so bad he lost his left eye. This young man had planned to be an Air Force pilot, and now he never would. But later on in his life, Dr. Dennis Burkitt said that losing my left eye gave me a vision for the health of the world. You see, Dennis Burkitt went on to become a physician, not a pilot, and he became a missionary physician in Africa. He would treat patients from the Great Britain Army, and he saw lots of them, especially dealing with digestive issues. Why? Because they ate the food that was shipped to them. Tea, crumpets, white flour, white sugar, hydrogenated oils. Now, he offered to treat the African villagers for free, but they never showed up. He didn't know why until one day as he was walking along a trail for his morning stroll, he saw, how do I put it delicately, a pile of poop on the side of the road. A large pile. He thought, what in the world is this? What kind of ox came by here, he thought. Only to find out that the African villagers didn't have bathrooms, and one of them decided to squat by the side of the road. Anyway, see, I can talk about bowel stuff all the time and not even be embarrassed. Burkitt went back to the clinic, and he realized that the reason he never saw African villagers with digestive complaints is because of their diet. But what in it made a difference? He found that these African villagers consumed 35 to 65 grams a day of undigestible plant material called fiber. Now, back in the day, no one talked about fiber. Today, every commercial talks about fiber. This non-nutrient was so important, Dr. Burkett said, that he was going to dedicate his life to telling the world about it. And he popularized fiber. Now, folks, fiber is a critical element to your health. The Raw Truth book and diet, if you follow it, will give you loads of fiber every day, 30, 35, 40 grams. But if you cannot get enough from your diet, I got something for you. It's called raw fiber. It's brand new, and I created it to mimic the fiber in food. It's not husk, it's not bark, it's food. Raw, organic, sprouted, non-gluten grains and seeds. We've got flax, we've got chia, we've got amaranth and quinoa, we've got sunflower, we've got sesame. It tastes really good, gives you protein, good fats, and lots of fiber, and is easy to use. Folks, increasing your fiber intake is critical for your digestive health, your cardiovascular health, and your overall wellness. And that's key number one. If you left right now, but please don't, if you left right now, you would have enough to get a jump start on your health, but we've only just begun. Key number two to extraordinary health, eat raw nutrients. I'm going to tell you a quick story about vitamins and minerals you've never heard. In 1920, the first vitamin was discovered by Dr. Casimir Funk, Polish scientist, who found a vital amine, later called vitamin, named it thiamine, or vitamin B1, the first ever discovered. Thus began the great vitamin revolution, or what I like to call the great vitamin hoax. Fast forward 100 years, 90 years, research now shows that some people taking a multivitamin or a regular multivitamin are worse off in their health, have a greater risk of cancer. Some taking regular calcium supplements have a greater risk of heart disease. Now, our industry was all angry about those studies, but I'm not so sure they're wrong. Why? Because vitamins and minerals are great when they come from food. You see, in the early 1900s, 90% of Americans were agrarian. They lived near a farm, and today 2% do. Now, what happens when your food travels mile after mile after mile from where it was grown or raised? Well, it loses something. And back in the day, even though diseases like cancer and heart disease were very rare, people could see the future that if we didn't get the right nutrients, they would become more prevalent. Of course, they have. The answer, vitamins and minerals. Now, men in lab coats would go in to the laboratory, look under a microscope, see things in food, and recreate them with petrochemicals, activated sewage sludge, byproducts of the film development industry, and rocks. Folks, you didn't think the beta-carotene in your vitamin came from the nice lady juicing carrots in the back, did you? It's a shell of its former self. These vitamins and minerals are chemicals. They're drugs. Maybe less side effects, and maybe they are effective, but you're forcing your body to take things that look like nutrients but are really just part of the whole. I want to share with you two concepts about nutrition that you need to understand. Number one, nutrient intelligence. How do you think the calcium in your yogurt, kale, or almonds knows when you eat it to go into your bones and teeth where you need it and stay out of your kidneys where it would form stones, stay out of your arteries where it would form plaque, stay out of your joints where it would form deposits, and stay out of your brain where it would form amyloid? Answer, intelligence. You see, the calcium is not alone in your food. It's surrounded by other minerals and vitamins. It's surrounded by probiotics and enzymes and a sequence of amino acids, proteins, that escort the calcium from the food into the cell where it needs to be. You know, in southern Missouri, a lot of people have soil that's very acidic. Ours was when we moved in there. And the easiest way and the cheapest way to increase your pH of your soil is to lime the fields. Liming the fields, I've learned, means calling Bob at the rock quarry and ordering limestone in powder form. You put it on your fields, and this rock seeps into the soil, and the organisms in the soil turn the dead rock into a living nutrient by ionizing it and organizing it. It's what the term organic means. It means carbon-based or alive. Unfortunately, this limestone, which costs $15 a ton, what I don't use gets shipped to mineral manufacturers to become calcium carbonate and calcium citrate. The number 1 and 2 forms of calcium in America today are rocks. Folks, if you are what you eat, you're eating rocks, you're wondering why you're turning into a stone? Folks, you've heard the term nutrient intelligence. You also might want to remember the term dumb as a rock. Folks, rock is not food for humans or for animals. Second concept, you don't know what you don't know. There's 19 B vitamins today. There used to be 13, 12, 11. There was 6, and then there was 4, and there was only 1 in the beginning. I wonder if there's really 47. And what if B36 is the best? And what if we sit around waiting for a guy in a lab coat to recreate B36 out of petrochemicals? Pretty silly. I'd rather get it from food, because food contains what we know and what we don't know. Not only any kind of food, but raw food is nutrients at its most powerful. If I offered you an apple from a tree or applesauce from the apple from the tree, which would you choose? Now the apple, maybe you don't know this, but the apple when peeled loses its phytochemicals and fiber. When it's boiled, it loses its probiotics, enzymes, and some of its water-soluble vitamin activity. When it's preserved, it loses even more. But Mott's doesn't want you to know that the applesauce in the jar is any different from the apple. But you know it is. Why? Because it's raw. It's fresh. Raw foods are the most potent form of nutrients. I met a man by the name of Andrew Zalay 3 years ago. It's actually 4 years now. He turns 90 this year. Hungarian immigrant, pharmacist by trade, came to America, and instead of taking vitamins and minerals out of foods, he decided to put them back to change the way people took vitamins and minerals forever. As I sat there and listened to his process, where he took living organisms, the same as those in soil, fed them the same vitamins and minerals most of us swallow. These organisms incorporated them into their cell structure to recreate food. This food had the vitamins we know about and the vitamins we don't know, all based upon a sequence of amino acids that allowed the cell structure of these organisms to literally incorporate the nutrients into their cell wall. When you look at them under a microscope, they look no different than broccoli, pepper, meat, yogurt, whatever. When I listened to Andrew, I said, Andrew, does anyone in America have access to this in health food stores? Because this is really good. He said no. But he told me all the places it's used around the world, in hospitals and medical centers, and to preserve foods naturally. And I said, Andrew, I'm going to bring it to America, and I'm going to tell your story. We created a concept together called the Vitamin Code. And in 2008, we changed the way people take vitamins and minerals forever. And maybe tonight we'll change the way you do as well. You see, the Vitamin Code is food, the nutrients you know and those that you don't know, with all the code factors necessary for utilization. We introduced the first raw, whole food vitamins and minerals in multiple vitamins, such as Vitamin Code for men and for women, Vitamin Code men 50 and wiser and women 50 and wiser, Vitamin Code for family ages 6 and up, Vitamin Code Perfect Weight to balance your weight and stress levels, Vitamin Code for kids, which is a chewable multiple vitamin, and to disappoint some of you, sorry to say, it is color-free. The bears are white. Tell your kids they're polar bears. They'll believe you in this part of the country. 1 gram of sugar instead of 8 like the average children multivitamin, and no chemicals. We also have Vitamin Code Liquid, which is the first chemical-free liquid multivitamin. We've got Vitamin Code Raw Prenatal for expectant moms. We've got Vitamin Code Raw 1 for men and Raw 1 for women, for those of you who will only take one. And we've got targeted nutrients like the first and only Raw Iron, Raw B12, Raw B Complex, Raw Vitamin C, Raw Vitamin E, Raw Vitamin D, and Raw Calcium. Folks, a lot of people tell me they take a vitamin every day for insurance purposes. Now, last I checked, insurance was the thing I pay for every month that I never get any benefit from, and when I need it, I have to beg. When you take something by mouth, it better work. Folks, let's face it, a lot of you have come from eating junk food to eating health food. It's more expensive and it's less convenient, but you stick with it because it does something for you. Don't settle for a vitamin that doesn't. Now, vitamins and minerals are awesome. You need them from food and raw food or supplement with raw vitamins like the Vitamin Code. But there's another nutrient that may be the most important. In fact, it's derived from the Latin word that means the most important, proteus, where we get protein. Protein is the building block of your skin, hair, and nails, your hormones, your immune system, and your muscles. That's pretty important, I would say. I love protein, but I love raw protein because all raw protein sources have 4 components: undenatured or natural amino acids, the building blocks of life. You've got enzymes to break down the protein, because you're not what you eat, you're what you digest. You've got fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K in every raw protein. People say, Jordan, why are there fat-soluble vitamins along with protein? Who knows? But they're supposed to be there. And probiotics to help break down protein byproducts in the body. Now, if you look at protein powders, they're lucky to have one of those four until now. Raw protein was introduced a year ago. It's a certified organic, raw, vegan, sprouted protein, no dairy, no egg, doesn't use soy, containing sprouted grains like quinoa, amaranth, brown rice, and others, free of common allergens, loaded with enzymes, loaded with probiotics, and raw fat-soluble vitamins, 17 grams per serving. Tastes mild, can be mixed in anything. Athletes love it, stay-at-home moms love it, active seniors love it. Folks, protein powders and dairy and egg and all of those, they're allergenic, and they don't have the critical components that raw food does. And we took the same raw protein blend and created the first certified organic raw meal replacement called Raw Meal. Raw Meal has 33 grams of protein, 9 grams of fiber, 5 grams of good fats. And if you don't eat breakfast typically, but instead you take raw protein, you might forget to eat lunch. 20 vitamin code vitamins, 40 superfoods. Folks, has anyone in this room ever eaten at a raw food restaurant? Raise your hand. I did last night. One of my favorites was in Oklahoma City called 105 Degrees because you don't want to heat it above 105 degrees. But when I left and saw the bill, it could have been called $105. I loved every dollar of it, but Raw Meal is the most affordable raw nutrients available. Folks, make raw foods, vitamins, minerals, and proteins a big part of your diet. You will reap great benefits. Key number 3 to extraordinary health. Dive into the ocean of wellness. Do you know that people who lived historically by rivers, lakes, oceans, and streams were always the healthiest? Something about the ocean brings good health. In fact, a 1922 silent film called Nanook of the North created major shock waves across America and Europe when people saw it. Why? Because up until that point, they had never seen visual proof that people could live in an environment as harsh as Greenland, Iceland, Alaska, or northern Canada. These individuals that they saw on the screen were alive. They were vibrant. And they created a lot of interest in scientists, researchers, doctors, and anthropologists. They flew from here to there, and one such anthropologist, Swedish-born, Harvard-trained Vilhjalmur Stefansson, ate and lived with these people, documenting their great health, their crazy diet, and the nickname that they were given, Eskimo. Eskimo means eater of raw flesh, which you can probably imagine what they ate and why we call them Inuit today. The Eskimos ate a crazy diet, but according to Stefansson in his book, My Life with the Eskimos, he never saw one with cancer, one with heart disease. He saw some villages with no cavities in the entire village. Can anyone say that about their own mouth? He said there were not behavioral problems like we have over here. There wasn't even any crime. They didn't even have to lock their igloos at night before bed. Little Eskimo humor. Give a guy a break. What made the Eskimos healthy? Because their diet was 95% protein and fat. Their fruit came from bushes and berries during the short summer, and they ate greens when they dug beneath the roots of trees to find moss when they could dig through the snow. But the Eskimos of old had good health, as do the Japanese of today, and it was found that they consumed regularly a compound that we have given all the credit in the world to their wonderful health. Every day, the Eskimos of old and the Japanese of today consume thousands of milligrams of elongated polyunsaturated fatty acids. Man, that was a long word group. Later called N-3, now known as omega-3 fatty acids. These omega-3 fats support your heart, support your brain, support your skin, support your joints, your mood, your immune system. They're awesome. But what if I told you that omega-3s were never meant to be consumed alone? You see, in my research of the Eskimo diet of old and the Japanese of today, omega-3s were always found with other compounds, often with two antioxidants called astaxanthin and fucoxanthin. Omega-3 fats are great, supporting all those areas of health. Astaxanthin is an antioxidant that makes salmon red, pink, or orange. Astaxanthin is hundreds of times more potent as an antioxidant than vitamin C, beta-carotene, and vitamin E. Astaxanthin is great for the heart. It's great for the brain, but it works differently than omega-3s. Astaxanthin is best known as an internal sunscreen. When you eat it, you can get more sun without burning. Fucoxanthin comes from seaweed, and it's an antioxidant that helps you burn fat and prevent fat cell oxidation. That means when your fat cells open up and it's like rancid fats in your body. Now, when you eat a meal of wild salmon, the richest source of astaxanthin and omega-3s, followed by a seaweed salad or miso soup with seaweed floating in it like the Japanese do, you're getting them all. However, we hardly get any. The best source of astaxanthin and omega-3s truly is wild sockeye salmon. That variety of salmon has the highest amount of astaxanthin. Eat it canned, eat it fresh, buy it frozen, poach it, steam it, smoke it, just eat it. I had wild sockeye salmon a minimum of 200 days last year, and every single day, maybe but one this year. I had it for lunch. I love it. Seaweed I'm not so fond of. It's great for you, but I don't really like it that much. I'll eat it at a Japanese restaurant, but you can buy it here. You can rehydrate it, or you could eat it in your miso soup. Thing is, you need to eat it. And one day I went to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had a thought. Wow, omega-3 fatty acids are the #1 selling supplements in health food stores. But if they're not meant to be consumed alone, why don't I try to recreate these powerful oceanic compounds for the first time since Nanook walked the shores of Alaska? And I did. And it's called Oceans 3. Oceans 3 for the 3 powerful compounds the ocean has for our health, containing powerful omega-3s, astaxanthin and fucoxanthin, like you'd get from sockeye salmon and seaweed salad. Oceans 3 Beyond Omega-3 capsules. Oceans 3 Beyond Omega-3 cod liver oil, which is a red liquid that tastes wonderful. I'm not joking. We have Oceans Kids, and my little girl Alexis comes into my bedroom every morning at about 6:15 and says, "Candies, Daddy." What she means is she wants her chewable Oceans Kids omega-3s. Oceans Mom for expectant mothers, and my 2 favorites, Oceans 3 Healthy Hormones. This is for women, adults of all ages. Great for menopause, but great for an 18-year-old that wants good skin. And Oceans 3 Better Brain, which supports memory, learning, focus, and cognitive function by oxygenating and bringing blood flow to the brain. Eat sockeye salmon. Eat seaweed. But don't just take fish oil. Take Oceans 3. Key number 4 to extraordinary health. Couldn't give a health seminar without a lecture on losing weight. Take a 360-degree approach to your diet. Folks, I've been a lot of places in the world. Africa, I saw obesity just as much as I saw starvation. Alabama, same thing. Indonesia, third world country, lots of obesity. Indiana, same thing. Malaysia, Montana, Europe, and whatever state starts with an E. Bottom line, folks, I didn't have to travel around the country in a 45-foot red, white, and blue bus called Perfect Weight America, which I did, to realize that the word that has now been coined globesity is a major issue for our appearance, for our confidence, and taking a toll on our health that's greater than we can even imagine. Truth is, folks, I learned by traveling to 250 cities and talking to thousands about their weight that there's not one cause of weight gain and not one answer for weight loss. But I did find 4 areas that are contributing to your excess weight that we want to attack by surrounding the problem with a comprehensive or multidimensional solution. The first area is metabolism. Now, all of you have probably used that word. Not many of you know what it means, but you use the word in the form of a sentence such as this: I have a slow metabolism. Now, people will say to me, Jordan, you don't understand. My sister, friend, mom, cousin, they can eat whatever they want and not gain weight. I look at food and gain weight. People say, Jordan, I eat like a bird. And I'm thinking, how big a bird are we talking about? You'll have somebody say, Jordan, you don't understand. Obesity, it runs in my family. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I'm not sure anyone runs in your family. Folks, I know I'm being cruel, but let me tell you this. There is an answer for each and every person in this room, whether it's 5 pounds or, like Derek, who we're working with, 500 pounds that you need to lose. Metabolism is simply the amount of energy you require each day to function. People say, well, if you consume more calories than you burn, you gain weight. If you consume less than you burn, you lose weight. It's not exactly correct, but it's pretty close. But I do believe that metabolism differs in everybody and could be greatly improved, and you'll reap tremendous benefits. That same seaweed antioxidant called fucoxanthin was a subject of a human clinical study on adult and overweight and obese women, shown to increase resting metabolic rate by an astounding 18%. But get this, it didn't work through your central nervous system. You didn't lose sleep, have jitters, hurt your heart or liver. It actually was an antioxidant. Get your metabolism right. Fucoxanthin can help. Number 2, increase muscle and burn fat. Here's a rich get richer story. The more muscle you have, the more fat you burn. The more fat you have, the more fat you gain. Sad, yes, true, absolutely. In the Amazon, particularly South America, people drink a beverage made of unripe coffee beans, the green seeds of the coffee cherry. Naturally low or free of caffeine, this extract, when studied in France, was shown to increase lean body mass while burning fat, giving you a slimming effect, all through the power of antioxidants. Number 3, blood sugar. Millions of people go on this roller coaster ride daily, and you didn't even buy a ticket for it. Your blood sugar goes up, and then it goes down, and you go all around. We found 2 antioxidants from the blueberry and the bayberry that in 4-week human clinical trial showed a great support of healthy blood sugar levels. And number 4, stress, the word we use way too often. Stress is the tale of 2 hormones. There's cortisol and there's DHEA, both produced by those tiny adrenal glands near your kidneys. Cortisol is great when you're being chased by a bear in a neighboring national forest. It's your fight or flight hormone. Tells you to get somewhere quick, eat a lot because you're going to starve. But also, too much cortisol causes you to crave things you shouldn't, causes you to lose sleep, be in a bad mood, have dry skin, yet retain water. That is a double bummer. Lack energy. When you say you're burned out, it means you're producing cortisol, and we produce entirely too much. DHEA could be the fountain of youth. It's a hormone that you produce that makes you look and feel great, and it declines with age. Also, the more cortisol you have, the less DHA you have. They're an inverse relationship. We found a food that was consumed in eastern India as a tonic daily. It's a botanical called ashwagandha. And this particular ashwagandha, in a human clinical study, was shown to decrease cortisol levels by 24%. You combine that with the blood sugar support, with the muscle gain, fat burning, metabolic enhancing benefits, and Diet 360 is a multi-dimensional weight loss support formula that goes with a healthy diet like you'll find in the Raw Truth book. If you want to get quick or get slim quick scheme for your family or your high school reunion in the summer, this is not it. This is a program that you commit to with a healthy diet, and Diet 360 uncovers some of the weaknesses that your body has developed, why you've kept the weight on. Many people describe their weight issues as a lifelong battle. You need help, and I believe that through antioxidants, foods and beverages that are commonly consumed around the world, Diet 360, along with a great diet, can finally help you win what we euphemistically call the battle of the bulge. Key number 5 to extraordinary health. I'm rapidly running out of time, so I'm going to breeze through this one. Balance your immune system. Our immune system is that invisible shield that some of us don't believe really exists. Some of us think it's kind of like the Loch Ness Monster, the Sasquatch, or the Yeti. Well, somebody's seen it. I've heard of it, but I don't think it exists. Some of you feel so bad so often, you're sure it doesn't. Folks, people will generally say that when you have an infection, you need to boost your immune system. When you have an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, you need to suppress it. Now look, I'm no health genius, but I can tell you, if suppressing the immune system cures something, I can help. Don't sleep and eat Twinkies all the time. Folks, it's not that easy. You see, all of our immune systems have components that are up, that are down, they're imbalanced. So we went to the drawing board and created a system called Immune Balance. It's multi-dimensional support for your immune system from your toes to your head and primarily in the gut. Immune Balance Daily for your everyday immune system needs. Immune Balance Rapid to have in your medicine cabinet for when you're not feeling so good. It's a 5-day program to help get you back on your feet. Immune Balance Sinus for those millions of people who need upper respiratory support when pollen counts are high and otherwise. Immune Balance Gluten Freeze for those of you who think a tiny protein in wheat, rye, and barley is causing all of your problems. Immune Balance Yeast Freeze for those who are confident that that tiny yeast called Candida is the bane of your existence. Balancing your immune system through a diet found in the raw truth and immune balance formulas is a good idea for virtually everybody. It's great that we're out of so-called cold and flu season, but I got to tell you, people are getting sick all year round. I see it every day. And finally, key number 6. I'm going to ask you for 5 more minutes of your time that could change your life. Build strong bones. When I was 19 years of age, I lost 1.25 inches of my height. I was measured at a doctor's office. My weight was 104 pounds. My pulse rate was 250. And my height was 5 feet, 11 1/4 inch. You see, I gained that height back after all that bone loss due to malnourishment, medications, and malabsorption. I gained it back through eating a diet rich in minerals and fat-soluble vitamins, through exercise and sunshine. But I realized that this bone health crisis that the former Surgeon General wrote about in his bone health report was real and looming. This bone health report was the first federal document written by America's top doctor warning us to change, and we all ignored it. 7 years ago, the former Surgeon General said that by the year 2020, if things don't change, 1 out of 2 American adults over 50, I'm going to stop there, add 9.7 years to your age. All American adults, men and women over 50, would be at risk of bone fracture due to bone loss. He didn't say risk of osteoporosis. He said risk of fracture due to osteoporosis. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, so what? I mean, bone fracture. My Uncle Bob fractured a bone, and he went in the hospital for wait a minute, he never came out. And my mom's cousin had broken a hip, and she was in there 18 months. Folks, I read a startling statistic among many that I'm going to share. The average life expectancy of a hip fracture sufferer is 18 months. You know, if 50% of American adults over 50 fracture a hip, and by the way, more people will be over 50 than ever before in 2020, if that happens, we won't have enough material to replace the hips, hospital beds to house the patients. You know, osteoporosis is called the silent thief because each and every day we lose bone and we don't know it. But I wonder if we're leaving the door unlocked or wide open. Age 30 is the last year you'll build more bone than you lose. Women who are 40 or over lose an average of 1% of bone a year. During menopause, in 5 years, you could lose 30% of bone on the high end. So a 63-year-old woman could go for a normal bone scan and find out that she has 48% of her bone left. If I were to ask you sitting here today, how's your weight? Are you overweight, underweight? You'll probably know because you've got a belly, a mirror, and maybe a scale. If I were to ask you about your energy levels, you'd know because you woke up tired and you tried to sleep at 3 p.m., but your boss showed up. If I ask you how your skin is, you're going to say, well, I can see it and I can feel it. But if I ask you, how healthy are your bones? If you're like the thousands of people that I asked this question to in the last 12 months, you'll answer, I don't know. And I'm here to tell you that what you don't know can hurt you. You see, bone health is critical. Your skeletal system needs to be cared for, not like the coat rack when you come home from a long day, throwing your cells, organs, ligaments, tendons, and skin on. It's a living, breathing system that supports immune system and hormone balance, and it's time we took care of it. But Jordan, why are we in this mess? Simple. You see, my generation and those behind me, we drank a lot of sodas. So did yours. Soda robs the bones of minerals due to phosphoric acid. Well, you know, we also eat a lot of sugar, which drives up insulin, which robs your bones of other minerals. Oh, and then we don't get sunshine because somebody told us it's bad. That would have helped, but it doesn't. Oh, and exercise, well, we don't do that. We don't even have PE in school anymore, but guess what? I got a lot of exercise. I have this video game where I go like this at home with, and I get all my exercise. Well, I don't eat fat-soluble vitamins anymore because they took all the fats out of the diet. Folks, we're in a real mess, and I believe that if things don't change, Generation X, Y, and millennial generation behind me will make osteoporosis not a disease of the aged, but a disease of all ages. Some men sit here and say, well, that's just for women. Well, hardly, because if a man fractures a hip today, he might not live to see 2012, according to statistics. So instead of just reading the Bone Health Report, I decided to do something about it. We launched a nationwide bone building challenge. Pilgrims was a part of it. So were 1,400 health food stores. But you may have missed it, and the good news, it's not too late. The Grow Bone Challenge centers around the Grow Bone system. It's a box that's green that has a booklet that tells you how to eat and exercise for bone health. And it's got two formulas, Vitamin Code Raw Calcium and Growth Factor S. Vitamin Code Raw Calcium doesn't come from rocks. It comes from a plant that's in the ocean that floats to the coast of Peru. A villager swims out, holds a bucket, catches this vegetable, lets it dry at low temperatures, and it has 73 trace elements, one of which is calcium. It's not from food, it is food. That particular source of calcium stimulates the production of bone-building cells called osteoblasts up to 2 to 4 times better than other calciums. We also add raw whole food vitamin D, vitamin K, silica, vitamin C, probiotics, enzymes, and the mineral strontium, which you may not have ever heard of. But that mineral alone has been studied since 1947, beginning at the Mayo Clinic, in 12,000 people, shown to be effective in 90% of them. The formula is great, but the benefits are better. Reduction in osteoporosis risk, stimulation of bone growth, and strengthening of bones. Now, you might have heard someone on TV named Sally Field say that you could slow bone loss with 1 pill a month. That's fine, but I want to increase bone density. I want to take back what I've lost. In a human clinical study of the exact Grow Bone System formula, 176 people aged 18 to 85, men and women, in 6 months of taking the Grow Bone Challenge, increased bone density. Those that were most highly compliant increased bone density by a whopping 3.7% on an annual basis. So if you think about it, you're a woman in this room, you're 40. In 12 months, you might have 1% bone loss, but if you go on the Grow Bone Challenge, you could have 5 years nearly of your bone health clock backwards. Folks, it's not sexy like, losing weight or improving your skin or having your hair turn black if it's not. But I got to tell you, this is an area of your body that holds you up that you can take charge of. But best of all, out of the 28,352 supplements in a health food store today, there's one that promises results, and it's this one. The Grow Bone Challenge is this. You take a bone scan today. Follow the Grow Bone System instructions for 6 consecutive months. Take another bone scan at the end, and if you do not increase bone density, we will double your money back and pay for both scans. Now, not all of you want to go get a bone scan, but if you did, we'd put our money where your bones are. Folks, you got nothing to lose and strong, healthy bones to gain because you need the calcium, you need the vitamin D, you need the magnesium, and if you don't grow bone, you'll get more money. Folks, not only do I want you to start the Grow Bone Challenge, I want you to finish. So when I'm at an event and only when I'm live, I make an additional offer. If you'll purchase 6 Grow Bone systems tonight, partner with your spouse, your mother, father, adult son or daughter, sister, brother, or friend, or do it all yourself. At register, you'll get a $50 off manufacturer's rebate that comes from us, not Pilgrims. I want you to invest in this. And Michael will mention to you when he does the little raffle later, if Curtis didn't already, that tonight, not only are you getting an additional discount, but it is the lowest discount on Garden of Life products you will get all year. We only allow it when we are here. So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to build strong bones, to balance your immune system, to take a 360-degree approach to your diet, to dive into the ocean of wellness, to eat raw nutrients and start with the gut. But if you hear nothing else I said tonight, hear this. Your answer to go from your before picture to where you want to be health-wise does not start at the cash register. It doesn't start in your supplement cabinet. It starts right here and right here. You believe in your heart, you confess with your mouth that you're going to get well. Because when I heard the 70th doctor tell me that I could be working out on the beach in San Diego in 3 months, instead of saying I've heard it all before, done it all before, tried it all before, I said, wait a minute. This makes sense. I'm resonating with this. I got in my wheelchair and traveled 2,300 miles in an airplane. All I'm asking you to do is walk about 10 steps and fill your shopping cart with the tools of the trade to win the battle for your health. Don't leave here without sockeye salmon or seaweed. Make sure to get some raw foods. Get some probiotic-rich nutrients. And all Garden of Life products that you choose are at an all-time low price. Folks, whenever I share at an event, I always want to take time to answer some questions. So we're going to take about 5 questions tonight. Before I do, let me say this. When I'm finished, Michael will come up and do a drawing for those Garden of Life products we've talked about. Also, you all got a free copy of the Raw Truth book, $20 value. We're giving away 700,000 this year. They're almost all gone, but if you know someone in another state or right here, tell them to get here or another health food store quickly. Also, if you're someone who likes to use an e-reader, if you go to gardenoflife.com, we have a free digital download for your Nook, your Kindle, your iPad, your iPod, or not your iPod, but your iPhone. You can watch it on your laptop or you can print it out. And the first 60 of you who purchase Garden of Life products will get an autographed copy of The Raw Truth. The book's worth $20, the autographed copy's worth $20.38. You can give one away, you can keep the other one. So we're going to take some questions live here and some questions from the overflow room. Hi, everybody, or hi, everybody, or hi, everybody. Not sure which camera it is. But I want to say this quickly first. Some of you are here, you like what you heard, but you're a bit overwhelmed. You're thinking, Jordan, I want to use it all, but I got to start somewhere. I'm always asked the question, Jordan, what's the basic protocol for me to get on the bandwagon of health? And here it is. If you're a female, vitamin code for your age group, Ocean's 3 healthy hormones, and the Grow Bones system for at least 6 months. If you're a male, vitamin code for your age group, Ocean's 3 better brain because we need it, and the Grow Bones system. If you have a young child, vitamin code for kids, Ocean's Kids, and raw probiotics for kids.